knowledge. There are two kinds of knowledge: knowledge of object and knowledge of the subject. Knowledge of the known, the knowable, and that of unknowable. Suppose you contemplate something beyond perception, beyond grasping, beyond not being you. If this happens, then for the first time you are aware of yourself. You are aware who you are, of your being, of your existence, of your subjectivity. This happens only when you contemplate something beyond perception, beyond grasping, beyond being you. Knowledge indeed is of two kinds: knowledge of objects and the knowledge of subjectivity. Knowledge of the known, the knowable, and the knowledge of the knower. And a man can know millions and millions of things. He can become acquainted with the whole world, but he is not aware of the knower. He is ignorant about that. He may be knowledgeable, but he may not be wise. Knowledge is a different criteria than wisdom. He may have collected much information, much knowledge, but the basic thing that makes him one a knower. That is lacking. He is not aware of himself, and such is the situation of each one of us. There is a story, beautiful story, in one of the Upanishads. There was a young boy named Shwetketu. His father was a sage by himself named Udalak. He sent his son Shwetketu to learn. So this story, Shwetketu, a young boy, was sent to a master to learn. He came back from his master to his home. He had passed all examinations. The master said, "You know everything, you know all the scriptures, you understand all them." And he passed well. All that the master could give him, he had collected. He has become in that process egoistic, which always happens with each one of us. The moment we know a little bit, we consider ourselves as knower. When he returns back, his father sees him from the window. He reached his father's home. The first thing the father asked Shwetketu was this: "You seem to be too much filled with knowledge, and your knowledge is making you egoistic. The way you walk, the way you have entered the house, I have only one question to ask you. Have you known that who knows all? Have you known that knowing which everything becomes known?" The emphasis should be on knowing that, knowing which everything becomes known, all quest is satiated. Have you attained to that, after which no desire, no quest remains? There is total satiation at every aspect of life. The way you walk, the way you have entered the house, I have only one question to ask. Have you known that who knows all? Have you known that by knowing which everything is known? And what is that? Have you known yourself? Shwetketu said, but there was no course for it in the school, and the master never discussed it. I have known everything that can be known. This is where everyone focuses on. You ask me something and I will answer you. I can answer every verse from Bhagavad Gita or from Vedas or from Upanishads. What type of question are you asking? This was never discussed. The father said, then you have to go back. And unless you know that by knowing which everything is known, and without knowing which nothing is known, you remain ignorant. Don't come back. First, know yourself. Shwetketu went back and asked the master, my father says I cannot be allowed to return to home. I cannot be welcomed there because he says that in our family we have been Brahmins not only by birth, we have been knowers of Brahma, the absolute consciousness, not by birth but by real, authentic knowledge. So he says, unless you become Brahman, not by birth, but by knowing the Brahma, by knowing the ultimate, do not enter the house. You are not worthy of us. So now teach me that which cannot be known, knowing which everything becomes known. The teacher said, all that can be taught, I have taught you. And that is something which cannot be taught. So you do one thing. You simply be available for it. It cannot be directly taught. When you are innocent, you are spontaneous, you are free, you are available for that to descend in you. You simply be receptive, simply be spontaneous, simply be natural. Then one day it will happen. You take all the cows of the ashram. The ashram had many cows. They say nearly 400. You take all the cows to the forest, remain with the cows, stop thinking, stop verbalizing, just become a cow. Remain with the cows, love them, and be silent as cows are silent. Then When the cows become 1,000, you come back. So Shwetketu went with 400 cows to the forest. There was no use of thinking. There was no use to verbalize. There was no one to talk to. In the beginning, he used to verbalize himself. He will sit down and start sermoning the cows or the trees. By and by, his mind became just like a cow. He sat silently under the trees, and for many years he had to wait. Many years he had to wait. Because preparation takes time. But when it happens like a quantum leap. The process of heating the water takes a long time. But the moment the process has begun, like a quantum leap, water begins to evaporate. By and by, his mind became silent, just like a cow. He sat silently under the trees, and for many years he had to wait. Because only when the cows become 1,000 he could return. By and by, language disappeared from his mind. Words disappeared. By and by, society disappeared from his mind. By and by, he became not a human being at all. His eyes became just like cows. This story is beautiful. It says to forget how to count, because if language disappears, verbalization disappears, you forget how to count. He forgot when he had to return. This story is tremendously beautiful. The story of Shwetketu. How he was sent by his father Udalak to learn. He learned all that could be learned. He grasped, he memorized. Knowing is not memorizing. It is wisdom. The story is beautiful. The cows reminded Shwetketu, you remember, you forgot that Master has said when we become 1,000, you will return. Now that we all have become 1,000, now let us go back to the Master's house. He must be waiting for us. Shwetketu came back, and the Master had to say to the other disciples, count the cows. The cows were counted, and the disciples said, yes, there are 1,000 cows. And the Master is reported to have said, not 1,000, instead 1,001 cows. The 1,001 cow is Shwetketu. He was standing amidst cows, silent, just being there, with no thoughts, no mind. Just like a cow, pure, simple, innocent, spontaneous, natural. And the Master said, you need not enter. You have no place here. You go back to your father's house. You have known. it has happened to you. It has dawned. You have come again to me. It has happened to you. This is knowing. This is wisdom. It happens when there is no object in the mind to know. The knower happens to you. When the mind is not filled with thoughts, there is not a single ripple. When there is not a single wave arising on the surface, you are there alone, all alone. There is nothing other than you, and in reality there is nothing other than you. Obviously you become aware of yourself, and for the first time you are filled with yourself. This is self-illumination. As such, that time in the pre-Buddha period, pre-Buddha era, the concept of enlightenment did not exist. Concept of enlightenment was coined by Gautam Siddhartha, the Buddha. Before that, it was self-illumination, knowing that which cannot be known, knowing yourself. Self-illumination, which is nothing else but what Buddha says, Apodipo Bhava, be a light unto yourself. The inner lamp is lit, and in that you see the reality of all that is around. This sutra is one of the fundamental ones. Try it. It is arduous. Because of the habit of constant thinking, the habit of clinging to objects that we do. What are the objects that we see around, we live around with? The husbands, the wife, the children, these are all objects. We cling to them. You can live with them, but not clinging to them. You can do whatever is necessary for them, but you are not clinging to that which can be perceived and that can be grasped. It is so deep-rooted, so ingrained, that it will take time. Your desire for knowing the objects, the beings are also like objects. It is so much ingrained in you, and it will take time, a persistent effort, not to be involved with the objects, not to be involved in thoughts, but just to become a witness and discard them and say, no, not this, not this. Neti, neti, neither this nor that. The whole technique of Upanishad is condensed in two words, neti, neti. Not this, not this. Not this, not that. Whatever comes to the mind, say, not this. Go on saying and discussing, discarding and throwing all that furniture out. These objects and beings are like furniture. Now time has come to discard them. The room has to be empty, totally empty. When emptiness is there, then that happens. If something else is there, you go on being impressed by it. You are impressed by the words, by the messages, but not by the presence. The words that are overflowing is simply to create in you a presence, to make you aware of your subtlety, to make you aware of your subjectivity, to make you available to yourself. The words are not important. The energy that flows through the words, that creates the miracle. Your innocence, your spontaneity, your freedom is lost in the woods of the objects. A thought-ridden mind is moving outwards. You cannot be related to yourself. You cannot be related to yourself until you return from the realm of objects and beings to that which is never born, never dies. And that which is never born, never dies is you, that knows everything, in whose presence everything happens, but is not involved. He knows everything. I know the energy that is overflowing through these words. That does, when it reaches within you. Words are not important, but your focus is on knowledge, the words, but not that which I want to communicate to you. I want to commune with you. I don't want to communicate words with you. I want to commune my being with you. Pulsate with that. Pulsate with that. Flow with that. Miracle will begin to happen in you. Enough for now.